I've been playing The Sims 4 recently and I'm having tons of fun building in the game. The Sims 4 has a huge modding community that is actively keeping the game interesting and innovative. Some of these mods can change the game entirely, while other mods can be build mode objects or furniture items. Before I played with mods, I always felt like the default game objects were a little dull or fake looking. While there are some excellent items in the game, I really want to create my own custom content. Now, if you're a fan of IKEA, you might have seen this shelf floating around the internet. I even made my own TikTok about this shelf. Here's some cool and really affordable IKEA furniture pieces that you can get right now. Now, if you're a fan of IKEA, you've probably seen this shelf being floated around for $1,000, sometimes even $2,000. This shelf was created by a furniture designer named Niels Gammelgard. The iconic shelf was originally created in the 80s and sold at IKEA. It's a simple and minimal shelf that has a lot of personality and style to it, and since it's no longer being sold by IKEA, I want to live vicariously through my Sims and create the shelf in the game.
It's Appleseed!
Sabindi nafta. Ho ho!
Okay, I have to be completely honest here. I have no idea how to 3D model. Or I've done a little bit of modeling in the past, but nothing to this extent. I'm going to have to learn modeling from scratch all over again, and I'm going to be using this program called Blender, which is a free program that professionals all over the world use. That's amazing. Adobe, take notes. I spent the past week learning the in and outs of Blender, and I was told that the first thing you should learn how to make is a donut, which I learned using this Blender Guru's tutorial. Apparently this guy has made this donut super iconic, and so I followed the tutorial and I made this really sick donut. Let me know in the comments below if I should add this donut into the game. I can see this being a really cool chair or coffee table. Okay, on to the shelf.
Vaccine. Film a soybean. Yips.
Let me just start off by saying how challenging this was. I was a bit overwhelmed having only put together a donut previously, which by the way is a completely different shape than the shelf. The shelf doesn't have any curves, thank goodness, so I didn't need to work with complicated shapes. I knew the shelf themselves were going to be no issue, but the part I was stuck on was the metal frames. Luckily, I only had to put one of the frames together because I can just duplicate it and mirror the frame for the other side. I tried out different methods. First, I tried putting together the frame all in one piece using the edge slider tool to create the cutouts. I realized this wasn't going to work because upon closer inspection of the shelf, the bars that hold the shelf together are in the center of the two frames that hold itself up. This meant that I would have to figure out how to cut out the bars and attach the two frames together. Initially, I was ready to give up and opt for a watered down version of the shelf without the double framing. But then I wouldn't feel good about the final product. I started from scratch again, this time with a better mindset since I now knew how to put the frame together at least. I decided to create the frame using 3 separate pieces. Let's call these layers just for reference. For the first 2 layers, they were going to be the frame itself, meaning I had to create the frame without the arms in the center. I realized this was the right method to go off of because the frame was easy to create and I only had to do it once. After doing that, my confidence went up because I now had a game plan to go off of. Creating the arms was a lot easier than I thought. They were just a straight line, except the bars holding the actual shelf had this squiggly shape to it. I used the edge slider tool again to help me divide the bars into segments, and I moved the shape outward to create the squiggles. This looked so good. Now all the pieces were created, I just had to attach everything and line them up accordingly. This is how the frame turned out. Super sick. Since the shelf is a very simple and minimal shape, I just had to create duplicates of the frame and mirror it. Once I did that, I pieced everything together and this was the end result. I am so proud of myself.
Nah.
See, all good things don't come easy. I spent about 4 hours making the shelf, but the hard part only just begun. I had no idea how to get the textures and materials to work in alignment with Sims 4 Studio. Sims 4 Studio is the program that we have to use in order to implement our creation into the actual game. This program feels archaic, as you can imagine. I honestly thought that once we had the creation, implementation was as easy as just injecting the item into the game, but nope. Now we had to figure out how to get the actual materials and textures to work. What I did not know about in 3D modeling was this thing called UV mapping. Now imagine you had a 3D object with all these colors on it. Now imagine unfolding this 3D object into a 2D plane to project how these textures or colors were gonna be laid out. It sounds complicated, but visually it makes a lot of sense. Going back into Blender, I realized that even though the shelf is a very simple object, unfolding this into a 2D plane was going to look extremely messy. And I had spent another 3 hours figuring out how I was going to tell the Sims 4 Studio that the shelf should look and appear like this. I know how insane it sounds considering the simplicity of the shelf and the fact that there's maybe 5 colors in total with no complicated textures or materials. But still, this was something that I struggled with and was almost ready to give up and give y'all an all white shelf. Which unironically, there is an all white colorway, so I wouldn't even be mad. Luckily, I came across these videos after having done so much research about a topic that I didn't even have the proper keywords for. It was like being blindfolded trying to read a book. I'm not gonna lie though, this UV mapping part was extremely challenging for me and I was stuck. I changed the mesh object multiple times and I realized that the problem might have been the original bookshelf that I chose to mod over. Finally, after playing around with both Blender 4.0 and Blender 2.7 and messing around with UV maps and following every tutorial that I can possibly find exactly how it was shown, this happened. I had a moment of relief that the hard work was finally over. Now I can get back into creative mode and create all of the colorways that the shelf comes in. Also, one thing I forgot to mention was baking in the ambient occlusion. Now, I'm not too familiar with what ambient occlusion is, but according to Pluralsight, ambient occlusion is a shadowing technique used to make 3D objects look more realistic by simulating the soft shadows that should naturally occur when indirect or ambient lighting is cast out onto your scene. You can see the difference here with ambient occlusion and without. Looks so much better. I went ahead and added all of the colors that the shelf will come in. Before testing the shelf out in the game, I need to add our shelf slots. This is pretty straightforward, but it's coding in the object where decorative items can be placed. I want to make sure that there's space for you to put as many things on the shelf as possible. It looks complicated, but it was actually the easiest part of this entire process. Alright, so we're in the game now and we're gonna see how the object looks. It should be in the bookshelves. Oh, here it is. Niels' shelf. Wow. Oh my gosh, this looks so sick. Alright, let's move this piano. Wow, that looks so sick. Okay, I'm actually obsessed right now. Let me just turn on the move objects sheet. And let's just slide it more against the wall. All right, so let's check out the other colors. This is the multicolor. I also included a white multicolor, which also looks pretty cool. I also included a wooden color, which looks pretty cool. And the shelf actually does come in this wooden color, so I figured for all the wood lovers out there, included that for you. And then this cool orange color. I also have this green color, because green's my favorite color, so I had to include a green color. And then, of course, black and white. And of course, I priced it at $700 just because the shelf in real life is about $70. At least when IKEA was selling it, and it has a fun of 5 and environment of 5. I didn't really know how to I didn't want to do too much to like the stats of the shelf itself, so I just gave it an environment of 5 and a fun of 5. Absolutely love the shelf. It looks so realistic. This is pretty much how the shelf looks in real life. I don't actually have the shelf because I can't afford it right now. It's being resold for a lot of money, but hopefully one day IKEA does bring the shelf back. For now, we can enjoy it in The Sims. And as you can see, I do play with a lot of mods just because I'm not trying to pay $5 for kits and stuff like that. You know how it is. Oh, let's try putting maybe like speakers on it too. I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah, so you see, I left some room for large items such as like a speaker. Yeah, that looks super awesome. And then of course there are like the functional books, like the vintage books that you can actually use to make this a functional bookshelf. So definitely putting books in will be really cool. You could even put like lamps and stuff in it. Alright, so you can see the shelf looks like this, and we are able to put pretty much like as much stuff as we want on it. Because the bookshelf was meshed after another bookshelf, it actually does work as a bookshelf even though there's no books on it. But to make it more realistic, definitely add functional books to it, obviously, to make it look like your Sims are reading a book and not just grabbing invisible things. But like, here's pretty much what it looks like when your Sims does come to the bookshelf. So like, for example, let's just tell our Sim to come read something real quick. All right. So you see he comes over and grabs a book. So yeah, pretty cool. Definitely very happy with the way this came out. I'm super excited. All right, let's test out another color and see what that looks like in a totally different environment. It could also work as a pretty cool room divider if that's what you're into. Like, for example, I have the bed on this side, and then I have like the little like hangout area on this side. Here's like the green color, the orange, the wood color, white, black. I think this white color looks pretty good here, the white multicolor. Here's my Sim just reading and existing with the bookshelf. Super cool stuff. But I think this will be a really cool like screen grab for the shelf. Yeah. I am so happy with the way the shelf came out, and honestly, I didn't think I had it in me. There were definitely a few times where I was ready to give up, but I'm so glad that I didn't. This took a lot of research and diving into something that I'm not too comfortable with, but I learned so much from this experience, and I definitely have a newfound appreciation for all of the modders in this community. I definitely want to make more items now that I've shown myself that I can do it. If you want this shelf in your game, I've linked it down below in the description for you to download and enjoy. Anyways, my Sims are hungry, so I'm gonna get them some apples to eat. I'll see y'all in the next video.